Please.
Who is the man that would risk his neck for his brother, man?
Chef!
Chris Arps, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Mark. As I told you when I came in, my father is in the back end of having a triple bypass surgery, so he's doing well, hopefully.
Well, prayers are with you. What in the world are you doing here?
Well, this keeps me busy and keeps me thinking about it, and I'm out of the waiting room and out doing this. So.
Well, we certainly would have understood if you had needed to take the days.
You know what? He's at Missouri Baptist, and they're one of the best heart hospitals in the area, and he's got one of the best heart surgeons in the country, so he's got his family around him. So, Winford Arps, we love you. We're praying for you, and I would appreciate if the audience, if they didn't mind, would send out some positive vibes towards the old man.
I agree with you completely, and I'm certain that they piped the Marc Cox show into the operating room, so, you know.
He actually, before the surgery this weekend, he was like watching MSNBC, and I'm like, man, if I was in your condition, I couldn't have MSNBC on when I'm about to get a triple bypass.
Yeah, that would definitely elevate my blood pressure. That's for sure. So before I'm going to get some phone calls here, but your thoughts on what I'm talking about here, that the left, this push, this drumbeat for gun control and gun laws, and right now, as of right now, and I didn't get Jessica Rosenthal on at the top of the hour, but I've been reading about this all morning. There is no information as to where these guns came from, whether they're legal or illegal. If they're fully automatic, there's a very good chance they're illegal. How he got the guns, we don't know anything about that. But there's an immediate leap to this conclusion that we need new gun laws, and that would prevent things like this.
Now, you excuse me if I didn't listen to the show yesterday, but did you bring up the thing about the CBS vice president?
Yes.
that just shows their complete derangement. The tweets that Hillary has tweeted out saying that the
about
NRA,
the silencers,
the silencers. They're just, and I saw. It surprised me. I was watching MSNBC a little bit yesterday, and even some of their anchors were saying it's too early to be talking about this gun control stuff. Give it a day. Let this settle into people. I think this is a loser. They think that this is going to be a big deal because this is the largest mass shooting, and this is what's going to get people to try to enact gun control laws. So they're really all over this, but I think they're going too far, and I think they're really turning people off. And it looks They are turning people off. Play cut number 1 from this lefty Mike Barnacle.
We are in the midst of madness, and we are represented by a group of people in Congress, not all of them, but enough of them, who have over the years repeatedly made a conscious decision not to do anything to tighten existing gun laws to prevent guns meant for war and killing to be purchased by average Americans.
That's the ignorance that you're dealing with on the left, because nobody in this country can buy a weapon of war. You can't. M16s are not available to the general public. Howitzers are not available to the general public. Grenade launchers not available to the. You can't buy a weapon of war. You can, however, buy a rifle that is shaped like a weapon of war, but it shoots just like my .30-06 hunting rifle or my .308 hunting rifle. It shoots in fact a smaller round called a .223. But it's irrelevant to call it away. It's not a weapon of war. No army would ever go into war with an AR-15. They wouldn't do it. And this is the ignorance you have to put up with, and nobody counters this stuff.
Yeah, and it's the same story that you hear all the time, that this person wasn't under the radar of any police agency. He acquired the guns legally. He acquired the ammo legally. It's going to say that.
We don't know yet, but we assume that's what's going to happen. And if he wasn't mentally ill, I mean, we don't know yet what prompted him to do this. I think you'd have to be mentally ill to do it. Then they're going to say tighten the mental health laws. Well, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, that's what I always do, tighten the mental health law. So do you want to get to the point where a family member can just say, hey, I think this person is nuts, and you can get people easily
Some people
committed?
would like that.
Some
people would
want?
like that, yeah. Some people would like that. Let me get to a couple of calls here. Mary, thanks for holding on.
Hi, Mark. I'm a baby boomer, My dad was a hunter. His friends were hunters. My uncles were hunters. We had 30-06 on our house. We had a BB gun that he had propped up behind the kitchen door leading out to the backyard. We would never have even considered picking up that gun for any reason because we were afraid of the consequences of what trouble we would get into if my dad or my mom caught us doing something we weren't supposed to do. What's wrong with this country today, in my opinion, is lack of morality, lack of common courtesy and common concern for every man, woman, and child. That's why we have abortion. That's why we have all the bad things in this country. There's no morality left. Nobody's taught the difference between right and wrong. And then we have things like Newtown. We have things like Orlando, San Bernardino, and now we have things like Las Vegas. I'm not trying to be preachy, but in my mind, when a nation turns their back to God, this is what happens.
Mary,
all I have to say. Thank you for letting me speak.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you, and I agree with you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
And I'm just wondering this, with the semi-automatic rifles and all of that, and part of the reason why the NRA and gun advocates don't want that because of the slippery slope argument that if you put any kind of restriction on a weapon, then eventually you're going to get down to banning weapons. If the NRA could be assured, or we could be assured, that if we put some type of limits on these semi-automatic rifles, I'm not advocating for that, but could they ever be in a place where they'd say, okay, we're for that if we can have some type of guarantee, this is not going to slope down.
But what's the limit?
Yeah,
I'm just asking you, what would that limit be?
What do you mean the limit?
You said, what if you could put some sort of limits on these semi-automatic weapons? What do you mean? What kind of limits?
Maybe not selling them to the public. I mean, I'm not advocating. I'm playing completely devil's advocate here more than anything.
So the reason the United States kicked everybody's butt in World War II was the M1 Garand, right? Which was had a gas-powered recycle on it, which is turned it into a semi-automatic, even though it's one pull of the trigger, that automatically loads the next shell so that you're ready to shoot. That's effectively all a semi-automatic weapon is, so that you don't have to move a bolt the next time you want to put a round in the chamber. It's just a piece of technology. Does it let you fire a little faster than if you had to move a bolt? You want everybody to go back to a single-shot rifle? I just don't understand this. The only people affected by new laws are law-abiding citizens because criminals don't follow the laws anyway.
Do semi-automatic weapons, do they have any purpose besides just kind of recreational shooting? Like,
self-defense? Well, but this is what this gets back to, and this is an uncomfortable conversation, but it's one that people in this country need to have. And I'm going to play. You know who says this a lot better than I can, but I'm going to take my best shot at it, was Ben Shapiro. He was on with Piers Morgan recently, and he read him the Riot Act over this. But the Second Amendment was not put in there for deer hunting and rabbit hunting. It was put in there to stop a tyrannical government from ever taking over this country, to prevent the military from coming in and taking all your weapons like the British would do. That's why it's there. And there's no reason in the world why law-abiding citizens shouldn't be able to own a semi-automatic rifle. If you ever had to go to war against the military, you're still at a major disadvantage, but at least you've got something you can fight back with and not a musket. So I reject that argument completely.
But I mean, and like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm not advocating for any of this. But what about, some drugs like morphine, or some drugs aren't, you can't get them out on the street or go to the pharmacy, but they have some type of limits on how they get to the general public, I guess, through your doctor and everything. I'm just saying, even you're not getting rid of it, but is there anything wrong with putting on some type of limits on the public getting these guns where some madman can do this?
That ship has sailed. Okay. There are 300 million weapons in this country. Even if you started trying to limit what people could buy, those guns already exist. Criminals don't go to a gun store to buy their guns. They buy them illegally, just like people buy pot and cocaine and all. And there's no way to regulate that market. So somebody with ill intent can still buy pressure cookers and fill them with explosives, or they can rent a truck and drive over people. This is just this argument is a non-starter. The only person you're impacting are law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, you're right. And like I said, I'm a big Second Amendment. I'm all
sure.
But when you wake up in the morning and you see 50 people killed, 500 injured, even the most ardent, I think, gun supporter, you kind of in the back of your mind, like, what can we do to try to stop this? It's happening just too often. What can we do?
What can you do to stop Boston? I mean, what can you do except maybe change somehow mental health laws, which again is a slippery slope, right?
Right, yeah.
Or crack down more vetting when you're letting people come into this country, like the Tsarnaev brothers in Boston. I mean, there are other things you can look at other than that. Okay. All right, Chris, you've got me all fired up here and flustered, and I'm running over, and I got to get to a break. Phone lines are full right now. When one